Hey, folks, and welcome to The Salty Seaman. I was very hesitant to do this because, it doesn't really paint me or anybody really in a good light here. Things you do when you're young and dumb. You're, exploring your maturity and adulthood at a very young age, especially when you come from a very kind of sheltered background. In the military, especially, where I was in the Navy, really encouraged, a lot of coming out of your shell, which I definitely did. And some of it isn't, what I'd call like, the most honorable, gentlemanly stuff. But, I was, as I've said on here many times on these videos, a young, dumb, full of cum man. Kind of discovered, myself a lot from what I was in high school, those first few early years in the Navy, and we did a lot of stuff, and a lot of it, revolved around going out and drinking, hanging with the boys. But I'd say, a lot of that was also, looking for girls, and certainly something, me and my friends and various groups I hung around with, enjoyed doing, various incarnations of all three of those activities, things that amused us when we're not on board ship doing shipboard type things. So one of the things I did was about somewhere around the middle of my time on the ship on the USS Blue Ridge over in Japan. We were in Yokosuka, just a reminder, that's the Tokyo area, Tokyo Bay area. I had, that was, as I've said a lot of times, that those were what I did to pass the time, unwind. A lot of hanging out with the boys, a lot of going to the bars and drinking, a lot of chasing girls. I mean, that's just what we did. Talking, 19, 20, 21 years old here. And and for a while, I had we were in port for a good 3 or 4 months. And I hung out with some other people who, probably you'd see were even more, pushing towards that kind of entertainment a lot more than my normal friends were. I'd describe as, we were always in that league, or we were always, up for that kind of stuff, especially the chasing girls part. But, I ended up hanging out with a group of people who just kind of had they'd made a little game out of it. They were, having so much fun, and, just getting a girl, one way or the other, just became less and less of a, an accomplishment, and they're just a competition sort of arose. And that's the best way I can describe it. And I literally don't remember a lot of how I got drawn into this. I was, this group of guys, it was about, generally four other dudes, and there was two others that kind of played along as well. But, they had, concocted kind of this points game in terms of your luck with the ladies. They call it, we never had a good name for it. I think we can just call it here the HookUp Game. And while we had a few variations of the game, the optimal run, I guess you could put it here, would be a 3-night run through 3 different areas, generally in this order, and plus a few rules. So I'll break that down for you, and go along, try to explain, exactly how this game worked. But generally, it's the optimal run. You're looking for 3 days, generally a Friday through Sunday. They had to be in 3 different areas. I mean, you could, just the way we played it. I mean, I guess if you wanted to stick to one area, I don't know. I don't think it ever came up, because that's just kind of what we decided on. But typically, the run was Friday night. You'd be working your game on the Hunch. That's the Honcho district. It's the bar area right across the street from Yokosuka Naval Base. It's a very different scene there. Just not too long ago, I went back. It's E5 and below have Midnight Liberty. And they're depending on when you're there and what's going on. There might be various drinking bans. The Hunch just isn't what it was back in my day, and I'm sure before my time it was even crazier. But that's the easiest and the quickest place to go out hunting would probably be the Hunch, because it is a sailor bar area, and the girls who would hang out there were people looking for sailors. So you can imagine, there's pluses and cons to that. But we'll stop there for a second. The second night, Saturday night, is Roppongi. Roppongi is the very pretty famous dance club area of Japan. I've talked about this on various of these little tales, but that's the ultimate. That is that's it's in Tokyo. It's not a complete sausage fest. It's not complete military. There's a lot of everything there. And for to wrap it up, you go to a Yokohama on Sunday night. Now, Sunday night, of course, is never Friday and Saturday are going to be your best days. You're going out to look to hook up or whatever, very obviously. So it makes Sunday, one of the more trickier ones to do. So one of the trick was to find, a Sunday where the next day was a Japanese holiday. Now, even in the States, even if Monday is a holiday, Sunday's usually not that happening, stateside in these kind of situations, but more than normal. While in Japan, yet it's even more. It's like Sunday often feels like a Saturday sometimes if the following Monday is a day off in this country. So Yokohama was generally seen as a good place to do this on Sunday, and also while being at least within the thing is, if you're staying on a Sunday trying to do this, more than likely you're going to miss the last train, and more than likely, you're working that Monday because it's not a day off for the ship. So it can lead to very tiring nights, or if you have the money, and of course, depending on how everything goes, it's not as much of a trip back to the base by taxi, as opposed to Roppongi, which would be a lot more expensive, and you're going to have more luck. Putting Yokohama on the Sunday versus say the Hunch, where you're even on a Sunday with a holiday the next day, the pickings might not be so ripe. Now, the reason choosing these places is generally choosing a place where as a gaijin, as a sailor, military person, as a non-Japanese, essentially, you want to go someplace where people like you. Basically, the best way I can describe it. Does it mean you can't go to some place that's more, just a Japanese bar or club, or anywhere really, and work magic? No, of course not. But that's going to be a lot more difficult, especially if you don't speak Japanese, and the chances of people being interested in your gaijin ass goes way, way down. That's really picking a needle out of a haystack versus going someplace, the dock bars outside of base. Roppongi, which is known for being kind of international, and Yokohama, and definitely certain bars also has that thing. The Hurricane Deck is known, various Irish bars, what have you. So it's just going to where the girls are who are interested in you. So that's basically the reason those are three places in the Tokyo area we would choose to go. Now, other rules for the game, we have our locations, we have our times. So how does it work? Is it you picked up a girl, that's the points? Well, not exactly. There is a few categories, and they're all worth points. And there's at least a couple of restrictions or rules. One, you can't know the girl ahead of time. It has to be someone completely new. You don't have a previous any kind of relationship with. Even very casual. If you know each other's name, then no, it doesn't. It's not going to count. Doesn't really matter nationality or anything like that. Generally you're looking at Japanese girls here. I mean, we're in Japan. We're out in town for the most part. But if it's a service member, another gaijin, Filipino, whatever it might be. As long as you don't know them personally, for the most part, it counts. And then you get into the different categories here. What's going for points and what's not, and how would how well did you do for each one, and we count up the score at the end. So a little breakdown is as I remember it. Again, this is a very short period I was doing this with, and I can remember faces, but not a lot of the names of the guys I was doing this with, which is puts me in a little weird disadvantage when I normally do these things because I just have a pretty good memory of this stuff. But this one was such a side one. I have forgotten a lot of some of the details of the people, but I definitely remember the game. But there was basically you get a verified phone number was 3 points. Generally, as if it was coming down to it, most people, it's how well you enforce the rules is also part of it. And I don't think we were super strict on anything, but at the same time, you might see something that was bullshit, and you want to get some kind of verification. Phone number verification was pretty simple. You make a call sometime after that with someone else there to verify. It was a real number. If you got a fake, that's 0 points. If you get a number that completely goes to something else that is not the girl you got, yeah, you lost that one, unfortunately. But otherwise, you either get her on the phone, verify it's her, or if you get the answering machine, you can make out, the person is saying their name, on the answering machine message. That would count too. If not, if you can't make out the name and you get an answer machine, you got to keep, basically if someone's going to push it, you keep calling the number till you got someone on there. So that's one that is 3 points. Number two, making out and basically making out with a person, kissing on them, something beyond, a little touchy feely, dancing close. This one's usually the most easily verifiable because generally this is going to happen in front of the people you are out with. So I don't remember anyone there ever being any proof of verification needed on this one. This was generally one, verified by someone else that was with you. Usually pretty easily done. The making out, kissing in public, that is, or somewhere, that's 4 points. And of course, 5 points is for sealing the deal. That is, you took her back somewhere and made sweet, sweet, passionate love, one assumes. And again, here is where, it can get difficult in proving it and, getting everyone else's belief of, you went off and sold the deal. Again, how well you were doing on the makeout part before, a lot of people were just like, okay, yeah, you said you went back to a hotel and you guys did it. I believe it because I saw how you guys were acting in the club. But there is also, other than that, there's, because sometimes you leave the club with someone and nothing happens for whatever reasons. So be pretty easy to fake that one. So people will occasionally there was occasionally okay do we have any proof of that? Getting the Love Motel receipt, which I don't think something you almost never did really. Because it's meant to be discreet, and carrying around receipts isn't something normal people do at those places, but you can do it. And the other thing was getting some kind of tchotchke from the hotel, proved you were in the room. Nowadays, this would be a lot easier to do, and not even being creepy or gross. Taking a quick picture of the inside of the room, maybe while she's in the bathroom. Her purse is sitting there, or maybe just clothes on the floor, or whatever. 100 more better ways to verify it these days. But we just didn't have cameras on us at all points back then. It just wasn't a thing we did. So, that was so there is a little bit of you got to make sure you have some kind. If you're really interested in getting your points, you've got to make sure that you've got some kind of verifiable, or at least in the common sense. Unless you're just determined to cheat, which I don't think anyone was. This was this was on you. Winning meant there was more about actual what you accomplished in the winning than versus just winning the points. And I think for the most part, everyone pretty much played fair. But there was a strategy to all of this, and it just because you're looking at obviously a perfect weekend would be a 15-point sweep. It does not stack. It's one or the other. You got, because generally that works in tiers. You get the number, and or you got the make out. And if you got to the hotel room, more, or barracks room or Navy Lodge, or if you were a dirty dog and went and did it in public, that may be a case where you need some kind of visual verification, which again gets weird and creepy. I don't, I wouldn't have liked that part, but don't think it ever came up to me. But regardless, those were things we had to do for the sake of this game, and planning out your strategy, was good. I think we generally always stuck to that cycle of Hunch, Yokosuka, Roppongi, Tokyo, Yokohama, generally the Hurricane Deck, and a couple other places. Based on criteria we knew. Like I mentioned, the holiday. If it's an American, if we have Monday off for a federal American holiday, you're not, it's not going to work for you. Sunday's going to be pretty dead. Obviously, still doable, but at the same time, you're losing a lot of just population to choose from. But the Monday, that's why the Japanese holiday Monday is always the best one. The other thing is duty sections. Whether you have all 3 of those days free, more than likely if Japan has that Monday off, we don't, unless it's a weird coincidence of a federal holiday and a Japanese holiday. So you've got to pick your route, and you've got to be able to be prepared to have a really shitty Monday, because if you get stuck in Yokohama overnight and you don't have the cash to get back on a cab past the train station, you're there till 5 a.m. One way or the other, you're going to have a very sleepy Monday. But again, we're all men in our early 20s. That didn't bother us as much as, say, it would now. But, we start with the Hunch on Friday night. Now, of course, the best times to go to the Hunch would be a Friday, and even better, a Saturday night. You can also put the Alliance Club in there at the same time, though we just consider that part of the Hunch, even though it's technically on base. It's definitely you can definitely hook up there. At least back then, most of the time I was there, people from out in town could just get into the club. This is pre 9/11. I think they had I think at some point they got to where like they needed some kind of sponsor, but a lot of people just got in. They would just grab people off the street and get in, and then never talk to them again. I don't know. There's a lot of different things going on at the time, but we'll include Club A in that, the A Club. But the problem with the Hunch is it is very inconsistent in terms of what's available out there, even on a supposed good Friday or Saturday, because even on Saturday would be the bigger night, but the Hunch had a habit of every once in a while just having a really, really good Friday, and it's what you'd hope for. Just a lot of bodies out there, and it's a lot of times there won't be as many people out there looking if the carrier wasn't in. Which sounds weird. It's like, because, if the carrier's in, you got a lot more, competition out there. But on the other hand, the amount of available ladies generally goes up as well. And it also tells you kind of about the women who hang out there. They know what the ship schedules are. And you definitely notice often a very drought when the carrier, for me, it was either the Indy or the Kitty Hawk, was not there. Even on a Friday or Saturday, the number of women out in town dropped severely. So that was always, that was probably the biggest gamble of what you had. So, those Fridays could prove to be very difficult, or, sometimes they weren't. Sometimes it just immediately happened for you. And pushing to at least get a 3, get that phone number, depending on who you were, wasn't that difficult probably. But again, it just depended on the bodies you had out there. So, and you move on to Saturday, and that's you're doing the route through Roppongi on your Saturday. That's definitely going to be, anytime is going to be their best day. That's Tokyo. That's it's Saturday night. Roppongi was almost always hopping on a Saturday night. It was very, very rare. I mean, I've seen people go up there I just see people go up there, just the day before a typhoon is supposed to come in, and it was still pretty happening. Like it was just one of those places. So yeah, you're definitely going to have that's going to be your best night to at least get a 3, if not up to a 4, depending on your luck in your game that night. And then you had 5, and again, this is or you had Sunday, the Yokohama, which is nothing. It's not. It's bigger. I'd say a little more classy than the dock bar areas outside of base. Again, you could be hit or miss on what's out there. Like I said, best to go if you're going to do a Sunday anywhere. The holiday afterwards is probably your best bet. Otherwise, it's going to your Yokohama is going to look pretty slim. Often to like middle of the week Hunch levels. So that puts an extra difficulty on it. But if you do it on the holiday weekend, as you said, you're generally looking at more possibilities out there. And getting a 4 or 5 on a Sunday was very difficult. That was generally I from what I remember, I don't think anyone ever got more than a 3 on a Sunday. But of course, possibilities are always there, just depending on how things are working for you, how the chemistry's doing, and if you pick the right person to flirt with, versus you wasted a lot of time on someone who was you figured out they were being more polite than they had actual interest in you, which often happens. Learning to knowing when to cut losses and run, knowing when you're really in with someone, and kind of test the waters. Like where what is our interest in taking this further than just maybe because at some points you feel like you got the 3. You got the phone number at some point, whether anything else happens or not. So that's always once you're in that, you got to play your game. Is like do I want to keep this at a 3? Is it worth pushing for a 4, then on to a 5, and then once you're in a 4, hey, do I want to go all the way for 5? Is it logistically possible? That's another one. Friday and Saturday nights, love motels are pretty damn booked. They're very, very hard to get into. One course trick in Roppongi, there's the Nusano Hotel right there. That's a military hotel. It's right next to the Roppongi. And it's fairly cheap. It's often booked a lot, but if you pre-plan and get your room there ahead of time, hey, Saturday night might be looking good for all the way for a 5 on you. Any of the other nights, knowing where to go, I'd say. I know there was the 2 main what was considered the love motels of Yokosuka. Getting a room in there Friday, Saturday night at any point, forget it. They're going to be full. But there were 2 other places, if you knew where to go, weren't quite love motels, but they were pretty cheap and generally even had rooms open on Saturday nights. Not always, because you weren't going to be the only person that knew the trick. So you had to learn those. Yokohama as well. Yokohama on a Sunday night. If you got that, I don't remember anyone getting that far. Probably wouldn't have been that hard even with a holiday weekend afterwards, because it's still going to be a little less traffic than a Friday or Saturday. And there's a lot more options in Yokohama for love motels than Yokosuka. But in terms of Saturday nights in Roppongi, if you didn't already have a room somewhere, like that's very, very difficult. That place is everything's just going to be full. So, yeah, that was basically the game. I don't know anyone who ever got a perfect 15. I definitely know someone got a 13. They got hooked up twice and got a phone number. I think that was the best game I ever saw of that. I don't think I ever got above an 8. I got a full-on finish and a phone number. I know the people's had 9s, other numbers. Go through the variances. Like some guy got someone won with a 9, just got 3 numbers in a row. Other person won 2 straight hookups but no phone number the third night and still won. It was a silly game, and it lasted for I don't know, 3 or 4 months. I wasn't playing every time, and and there was a couple other variations too. He's like, there's the middle of the week, Hunch trial. How much can you get done, 1 week? I think we tried that once or twice. We did a couple other, if you wanted to go someplace besides those 3 places, again, you usually had to have someone with you. I mean, it was just, we had a lot of fun with the game. Whether or not, we were the best of people, making a game out of, hooking up or whatnot. I don't know. I kind of view it as, just what people were doing at the time. It's people are hooking up, people, young people, they go out and do that kind of stuff because that's what they want to do. And, if they want to get lucky, they get lucky. Or at least, meet someone or, at least, have a little makeout sesh, whatever. I don't, that's what young people do. I don't have, just looking back on it, being, now, married father in my 40s, it's like, okay. Is this the kind of shit I want to like let my kid know about? It's putting this up. It's why I'm hesitant to it. As it's recording, I don't know if I'm putting this up, but I'm recording it for posterity while I'm thinking about it. So if you hear this, then I decided it was worth putting up at some point. Maybe showing my past, warts and all. I'm sure some people say like there's nothing wrong with what you did. That's just cool. Other people are like, yeah, you're kind of creepy and weird, and maybe not the best way to treat women. I don't know. I mean, that's what I was in my early 20s, and that's just one of the games we had. And I just thought it was just while I was thinking about it, just it was an interesting thing to get down for posterity's sake. Anyway, that's all Salty Seaman has for today. Talk to you freaks later. Peace.